Alright, this is a video a little different than normal. I'm a kid of the late 70s, early 80s. Dad was into CB radio long before CB radio was a thing. This was one of his. He needed to give some kind of idea of what it did. This was his big radio, and this was his radio down here, DAC 9 AM. Looks impressive as hell, but not all that great. Zachary T, he always said it was a better talking radio than the DAC, but the DAC just looked more impressive sitting on his radio bench. And then, of course, his foot warmer, the dog he used to have to kick when the cats weren't loud enough to get over the whatever. And then a couple other radios I've added, and I've got more radios than this. This is just what I got on my bench. This is my current power supply to run mobile radios. It's a Pyramid, like 50 amp. It works, but it's not big enough to run much of a mobile one of those. And that's that big old tube thing is the only help I've got other than mobile 12 volt amps. So I wanted a bigger supply. So that's what we're working on over here. I've got this cabinet. There's the lid for it. Here's the main body. DPS 1200 SBA HP, like server power supplies. They're rated at like 75 amps on 110 volt, like 100 amps on 220. So I'm working on building a cabinet to hold a pair of these to get 150, 200 amps of power supply. Took it apart earlier. I was working on taking it apart and cut some stuff out of it, and then had to go get a rivet tool and put some rivets back in it that I cut out. Anyhow, got some feet to go on the bottom of it. I got a gauge here that shows voltage, amperage, a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, some big heavy power lugs. That just fell off the cabinet. Circuit breaker on off deal. So I think this is going to go kind of somewhere in there, and then my power lugs are going to be there. And then I got one of those guys with some cutoff wheels. And we're going to open up this window here where these slots are at to put the power meter thing in there. Obviously I'm gonna have to go a little bigger, like one, if it was like one slot more. And unfortunately it doesn't work out very well to take any of these out. It doesn't make sense to take all those out because then this is weak. So we're just going to take this section out and then open it up just a little bit more. So anyway, I'll be back. Alright, I'm out in the garage with that power supply project I was working on. Here it is. You know, I mentioned I cut some rivets and cut some innards out of it. This is the piece I cut out. It's all aluminum. Riveted together. It was over here on this side. And when I cut these rivets out and then cut it all, oh, there's some more stuff. Come on. Cabinet wasn't very solid, but went to my hardware store and got some pop rivets, riveted that back together. It's a nice solid case now. I said I was going to cut those slats out, cut them out. Had to open the opening up some more, make it a little taller, a little wider. Dremel got away from me a little bit, so I got some scratches and stuff on the face I was hoping to avoid, but yeah, whatever. Anyhow, anyway, this is the piece that's supposed to go in there. Sits down in nice and snaps in. So that's a nice solid piece. I'm good with. I'm really happy with how it works. I can always come back and give this thing a coat of paint when I'm done. Anyway, so I've got the gauge mount. Next thing will be a couple holes for the power lugs. one hole for the switch on that breaker, and then some mounting holes for the actual breaker itself. But anyway, cut all this out in the process. We broke this thing off. I can't really see it. Huh. That's pretty cool. I don't really see it because I'm looking. No, it covers it up. There's a spot right there where we had a mounting lug thing sticking out. But anyhow, that's where we're at on this. I'm hoping to leave all these open for lots of airflow into those server supplies, so they don't get too hot, and we can run this thing pretty hard. I do have some feet to go on it, but I'm gonna wait until I get figured out where I'm gonna mount those supplies. Anyway, I'll be back. All right, the radio power supply project, little update. Lots of wires and stuff going on, but here's where I'm at. I got my 2 modules roughly mounted. That's going in front. Show you where I ended up on the front. So, got my meter mounted. No attention to the scratch marks, those will go away. I got my positive and negative post mounted. I got my dual pole 30 amp. It came on because it's plugged in. 30 amp on-off breaker switch thing. So when we come in here, power cord coming in, I'm gonna have to do. I want to do something different with how this comes in. But I do have. You can't see them. There. You can't see it. Where are they? They're hiding over here. Got these Gardner Bender mounting base things, and some zip ties, Gardner Bender zip ties. So eventually, at some point, we'll get this cord where we want it, and I've got my mounting tabs so that we can get this strapped down where we want it. But anyhow, I got my power coming in. It comes over here to the bottom of the that 30 amp circuit breaker switch thing, and then power coming out, line in neutral. I've also got a chassis ground here for all the ground wires. Power comes out, follows these wires back up and around into the modules. These are both a pair of 15 amp. Let's do something here. Anyhow, there's enough spots we'll be able to figure out how to get things laid in here and zip tied down, strapped down where it's just nice and neat, or neat enough anyhow. 15 amp rated plugs here in these 2 modules. Yeah, so I had them fired up earlier, had my meter on them. I'm getting 14.8 volts out of each of them. I had a little problem with this one down here on the bottom, wasn't putting out any voltage, and it turned out that there was a something I can point at. So down here, there's a little wire, little jumper wire. You can see up here on this other one that's what switches the the unit on. And there was a little solder carryover from. Let's get a better pointer. So from this side of the jumper to the next pad over, there was a little bit of solder carryover that was keeping the bottom unit from kicking on. Scrape that off, fires right up. Looks like I get 14.8 volts out of each of them. I'm working on at some point getting wires put together, hot wires going from the plus pad down there on the module over to there. Then there'll be some negative wires, big heavy, I think it's 6 gauge wire. Yeah, I think it's 6 gauge wire, 8 gauge wire. I think it might be 8 gauge. I think it's 8 gauge wire. Anyway, there'll be 8 gauge wire. 2 red ones coming off the positive side of these modules over here to this, and then there'll be 2 of them that come off of the negative side that go over to this side of my meter. and then there'll be one jumper of the same stuff that goes up and over to there. And then somehow I'm gonna have to figure out how to get the so there are two of these little plugs with this really little bitty skinny wire. I'm gonna have to figure out how to power up the meter. One of them's supposed to be test, one of them's supposed to be power. I'm just gonna plug them both into. Probably what's gonna happen is I'm just gonna, when I'm soldering, I might just stick them, all those leads, onto one of these units just to grab the power, because I don't think I can take those little bitty wires off of those big posts and make it work. I just don't see getting ring terminals big enough to go over those 1/4 inch posts that's going to fit that little bitty 22, 26 gauge wire, whatever that is. Anyway, so I might just solder them direct. I think there's more than enough length. But anyhow, ooh, maybe not. Well, there might not be, because it goes from that side all over. Huh. Yeah, we'll figure something out. But this particular meter took a hooey on me, so I do have a brand new one that's never been hooked up. 300 amp shunt, direction of flow. So according to the paperwork, we got to go from the negative side of our source through the shunt, through the meter, and it'll tell me voltage, amperage. Is that right? So that's the top. Yeah. Anyway, it's got to go from that side over. Anyway, battery's about to die on the old camera, so we've rambled on long enough. But anyway, that's where we're at on this project. So got time tomorrow. Hopefully, I can get some ring terminals of some kind crimped onto stuff, and we'll figure out how to get it all in there. And once I get the lengths of the wires figured out, we'll get them soldered to the units, and then we'll just bolt them down and call her good. Anyway, I'll be back. All right, tire supply project. Been working on it today. Got all of my cables crimped and shrink wrapped and installed. I got power wires going to run the meter. Everything's all hooked up. Everything's screwed down. Everything's together. Maybe not the neatest wiring job in the world, but hey, it's all good. Come around here, click that on. In a second, you see the meter lights up. I don't know if that'll show up, but if I'm showing 14.7 volts, 1.6 watts, 0.11 amps currently. I don't know what that is. Watts down there, I guess. I can't read it. I don't have my glasses on. But anyway, it's all done together. The last step to do is get the cover back on it, and at some point I need to pop the meter back out, and I might take everything off of it and repaint the face because it got scratched up when I was cutting the hole for the meter. But other than that, we're going to call this project done. We'll get the cover on it. We'll get a spot over here on the radio bench figured out where we're going to put it, as I think it's, when I get with the feet that I put on, I think it's too tall to fit underneath. Yeah, we'll do some rearranging. We'll figure out where we're going to put it over here, and then yeah, maybe we'll be able to get some fire back in the wire, get some power going back out to the antenna. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna call this one done.